what reason do you need to die?
The 1970s gave us some of the most beloved songs in music history. Anthems that filled stadiums, slow dances at prom, road trip soundtracks that never got old.
Lesson today is how to die.
But behind those catchy melodies and platinum records, something darker was hiding. Murder, suicide, cannibalism, real tragedies that songwriters transformed into radio hits while most listeners had no idea what they were actually singing along to. The truth got buried under beautiful production and hooks too catchy to question. These are the disturbing true origins of 12 massive hits from the 1970s. What you learn might change how you hear them forever. 12. Alone Again Naturally, Gilbert O'Sullivan. In 1972, this soft piano ballad floated across radio stations and into living rooms everywhere. The melody was gentle and melancholic.
Just leaving me to doubt, talk about God and His mercy.
The kind of song you might hear in an elevator or a dentist's waiting room. Easy listening for easy times. Most people hummed along without catching a single word, but the lyrics told a completely different story. The narrator describes being left at the altar by his bride.
We may as well go home, as I did on my own.
Climbing to a nearby tower and throwing himself off to end his life. He talks about God abandoning him, his father's death, and his mother's eventual passing, leaving him utterly alone. The entire song is a detailed meditation on suicide wrapped in the prettiest arrangement imaginable.
I cried all day, alone again.
Alone Again naturally reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 6 weeks. Millions of people made a song about killing yourself into one of the biggest hits of the year without ever realizing what they were listening to. Sometimes the saddest songs wear the softest disguises. 11. Strange Fruit, Nina Simone. Billie Holiday first recorded Strange Fruit in 1939. But Nina Simone's haunting 1970s performances brought it back into the cultural conversation during the civil rights era. The song described a pastoral southern scene with a horrifying twist. The strange fruit hanging from poplar trees were the bodies of lynched Black Americans. Blood on the leaves, blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. The lyrics painted a picture so vivid and disturbing that many radio stations refused to play it for decades. Simone delivered the words with cold fury, forcing listeners to confront the brutal reality of racial violence that polite society preferred to ignore. There was no metaphor to hide behind. The song said exactly what it meant. Strange Fruit became one of the most important protest songs ever recorded. Sometimes the most disturbing truth is the one America never wanted to hear out loud. 10. DOA Bloodrock. Bloodrock released DOA in 1971 and created one of the most genuinely disturbing songs to ever reach the Billboard charts. The track described a plane crash from the perspective of someone dying in the wreckage. The narrator feels blood running down his chest.
One lays a sheet across my chest.
Sees his girlfriend's lifeless body beside him.
The girl I knew has such a distant stare.
And slowly realizes that help will not arrive in time. He describes the taste of blood, the fading light, and the creeping certainty of death. The production added an eerie organ and slow, funeral-paced drums that made every second feel like suffocation. Radio stations played it anyway, and it climbed to number 36 on the Hot 100. Kids heard this on the same stations playing bubblegum pop and were never quite the same afterward. DOA proved that rock music could be genuinely morbid and still find an audience willing to listen. 9. Timothy, the Buoys. Timothy sounded like a light-hearted folk rock song with a bouncy melody and sing-along chorus. Radio stations played it without paying attention to what the lyrics actually described. 3 miners named Joe, Tim, and the narrator get trapped underground after a cave-in. When rescuers finally dig them out, only 2 emerge. Timothy is gone. And somehow, despite having no food for days, Joe and the narrator survived. The song never explicitly says they ate Timothy. It doesn't have to. The implication is clear enough once you listen closely. Rupert Holmes, who later wrote Escape the Piña Colada song, penned this track specifically to test whether radio would play anything with a catchy enough hook. He was right. Timothy reached number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. A song about cannibalism became a legitimate hit because nobody bothered to listen past the melody. 8. Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacques. Terry Jacques took a French song by Jacques Brel and transformed it into one of the biggest hits of 1974. The melody was warm and almost cheerful, the kind of song that felt like sunshine even when you weren't paying attention to the words. It became a staple at weddings and graduations, played during moments of celebration without anyone stopping to consider what it actually meant. The lyrics described a dying man saying goodbye to everyone he loves, his best friend, his father, the woman he cherished. Each verse was a farewell from someone who knew he would not see another season.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend. We've known each other since we were...
The joy in the music masked the grief in the words so completely that millions missed the tragedy entirely. Seasons in the Sun spent 3 weeks at number 1. A song about death became the soundtrack to parties across America. 7. Excitable Boy, Warren Zevon. Warren Zevon delivered Excitable Boy in 1978 with a jaunty piano melody and a shrugging vocal performance that made the whole thing sound like a quirky character study. The chorus dismissed every horrifying act with the same casual refrain, "He's just an excitable boy." Parents bobbed their heads. Radio stations added it to rotation. Nobody seemed to notice what the excitable boy was actually doing. The lyrics tracked a psychopath from childhood to adulthood. He rubs pot roast all over his chest at dinner. Weird, but harmless. Then he takes a girl to prom, rapes her, and kills her. The song describes him serving time, getting released, and immediately digging up her grave to build a cage from her bones, all delivered with the same cheerful melody. 6. Roxanne, The Police. Sting wrote Roxanne in 1978 after walking through the red light district in Paris near his hotel. The women working the streets caught his attention, and he found himself thinking about their lives, their choices, and the men who paid for their company. That night, he sat down and wrote a song addressed directly to a prostitute, begging her to stop selling her body. The band recorded it with a tango-influenced arrangement that felt romantic and desperate at the same time. Radio stations initially refused to play it because the subject matter was too explicit for mainstream audiences. The BBC banned it outright, but the song found its audience anyway, climbing charts across Europe and eventually America. Roxanne turned real sex workers Sting observed from his window into one of the defining rock songs of the late 1970s. Sometimes the most personal songs come from watching strangers. 5. Hotel California, Eagles. Hotel California arrived in 1977 with one of the most iconic guitar intros in rock history. The imagery was dreamlike and seductive. A desert highway, a shimmering hotel, a beautiful woman at the door. Listeners assumed it was about a literal place.
There were voices down the corridor, thought I heard them say.
Maybe a resort or a romantic getaway. The Eagles let people believe whatever they wanted. The truth was darker. Don Henley later explained the song was about the dark underbelly of the American dream, specifically the excess, addiction, and spiritual emptiness of the music industry in Los Angeles. The line you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave described being trapped by hedonism and success. The mirrors on the ceiling and pink champagne on ice painted a picture of glamorous self-destruction. Hotel California became one of the best-selling singles of all time. A warning about losing your soul became the song everyone wanted at their party. 4. Mack the Knife, Bobby Darin. Bobby Darin's version of Mack the Knife became a massive hit in 1959 and continued dominating radio throughout the 1970s as a jazz standard everyone knew. The swinging arrangement and Darin's charismatic delivery made it feel like the soundtrack to a glamorous night out.
Has such teeth, it, and it shows.
People snapped their fingers and swayed without ever considering what the song actually described. Mack the Knife was a serial killer. The original German lyrics by Bertolt Brecht detailed his crimes explicitly. A body washing up by the river, cement bags used to weigh down victims, missing people whose disappearances nobody investigates, fancy gloves worn to hide the blood. The shark has teeth, but Mack has a knife, and he knows how to use it quietly. Darren turned a song about a murderer into one of the most beloved standards in American music. Sometimes the deadliest characters wear the sharpest smiles. 3. Run for Your Life, The Beatles. The Beatles closed their 1965 album Rubber Soul with a track that John Lennon later called his least favorite song he ever wrote. Run for Your Life sounded like a jangly folk rock tune with sweet harmonies, perfectly in line with the band's polished image, but the lyrics contained a direct threat of murder delivered with a smile. The narrator warns his girlfriend that he would rather see her dead than with another man. He tells her to hide and run because catching her with someone else would push him to kill her. Lennon borrowed the opening line from an old Elvis song but took the jealousy to homicidal extremes. The casual delivery made it even more chilling. The song continued receiving radio airplay throughout the 1970s despite its violent content. Lennon spent years distancing himself from it. Calling it throwaway garbage he regretted recording. 2. I Don't Like Mondays, The Boomtown Rats. On January 29, 1979, a 16-year-old girl named Brenda Ann Spencer opened fire on an elementary school across the street from her San Diego home. She killed 2 adults and wounded 8 children. When reporters asked why she did it, her answer was chillingly simple. I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day. Bob Geldof read the story on a newswire and wrote a song about it that same week. The Boomtown Rats released I Don't Like Mondays later that year with a piano-driven arrangement that felt almost elegant.
Tell me why I don't like Mondays. Tell me why.
The song captured the senselessness of the violence without glorifying it, turning a real tragedy into a haunting meditation on modern horror. The track hit #1 in the UK and became one of the defining songs of 1979. Real bloodshed transformed into a chart-topping single. 1. Helter Skelter, The Beatles. The Beatles recorded Helter Skelter in 1968 as an experiment in loud, chaotic rock music. Paul McCartney wanted to create something raw and aggressive after reading about how heavy another band's new single was. The title referred to a British fairground slide. The song itself was just noise and energy, signifying nothing darker than a desire to rock harder than before. Then Charles Manson heard it. The cult leader became convinced the song contained hidden prophecies about an apocalyptic race war he called Helter Skelter. He used Beatles lyrics to justify the brutal Tate LaBianca murders in 1969, writing the song's title in blood at one crime scene. An innocent rock experiment became forever linked to one of the most infamous killing sprees in American history. Sometimes a song's most disturbing origin has nothing to do with its creation, and everything to do with who decides to listen. And that's our list of disturbing true origins behind massive 1970s hits. The decade proved that the catchiest melodies can carry the darkest secrets. Now you'll never hear these songs the same way again. Which one disturbed you most? Drop it in the comments. Smash subscribe, and I'll see you next time.